This is order of operations with fractions. So putting everything together that we've learned, multiplying, adding, all that stuff. So recall BEDMAS is the order of operations, of course. That's brackets, exponents, dividing, multiplying, adding, and subtracting. So first things we kind of look at are the brackets. Then we go to the dividing and multiplying. Then we do the adding and subtracting. So inside the brackets here, I have 1/3 plus 5/6. I can't add those unless I have a common denominator. So I'm going to get a common denominator of 6. So I multiply that one by 2, multiply that up by 2. So I'm doing this kind of all together, but hopefully you're following along. So 2 plus 5 is 7. And remember now you have to think, separate those two. I'm adding fractions, so I don't do anything with the denominator. I leave it the same. But when I'm multiplying, then I do multiply with the denominator. So a couple things to remember here, right? So I have 7/6 times 3/8. And like I said, when we're multiplying, we multiply just straight across. So 7 times 3 is 21. And 6 times 8 is, of course, 48. So I get 21/48. Can I reduce that? Yeah, both of those divide by 3. So, and I can tell that because I just know. So 21 divided by 3, of course, is 7. Whoops. 21 divided by 3 is 7. And 48 divided by 3 is 16. So I get 7/16 as my final answer. Next one here I have an example of. Inside the brackets, I have a division. So, of course, I can change that to a multiplication, and I have to flip the second fraction. So 1/5. Lots of different rules I have to remember. So 1/5 times 4/1. The rest of the stuff I haven't dealt with yet. Oh, I have another division outside here, so I'm going to deal with that after. Lots of things to think about. And that is plus. So inside the brackets, 1/5 times 4/1. 1 times 4 is 4. 5 times 1 is 5. I'm going to change this division because that's the next thing I have to do is the division. I'm not going to do the addition because BEDMAS says I do brackets first, which I've done. That was my 4/5. And then I do my division. There's no more brackets because I've dealt with them. The division of fractions, remember, we change to a multiplication and flip the fraction. So I get 3/4. And I still have this 3/2 here that I have to add on later. But this is the section I'm going to do next. So 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 4 is 20. And then I still have to add on this 3/2. So lots of steps. The 3/2 I can't add to 12/20 because they don't have a common denominator. But if I multiply that bottom by 10 to get 20, multiply the top by 10 to get 30, now I can add them. So 30 plus 12 is 42 over, I'm adding, so I don't change the denominator, so 42/20. I can reduce this, though, by dividing both by 2, at least. So I divide the top by 2, I get 21. I divide the bottom by 2, and I get 10. You could rewrite this as 2 and 1/10 to get it as a mixed number. And that would be your final answer. Okay, moving on. So I have this question here. I got a bunch of stuff in brackets. I have to first of all subtract this, which is a mixed number minus a fraction. Again, putting everything all together. So 1 1/3, first of all, I would have to convert that to an improper fraction. So 1 times 3 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So I get 4/3 minus 1/6. Okay, and then I can change the first one to a fraction over 6 by multiplying both by 2. So I'm just going to do this here. I get 8/6 minus 1/6. That's still in brackets too. All I've done is change them to a form where I can actually subtract them. Then I get 1/4 outside and 1.5 times 1/4 divided by whatever this is in brackets. So I work out this stuff in brackets first. 8 minus 1 is 7/6. So that's dealt with, the brackets. Now I have BEDMAS says brackets, exponents, divide, then multiply. So I'm actually going to do the division here first. The 1/4 divided by 7/6 I'm going to do first. So in order to do that, of course, I flip this fraction and change that to a multiplication. So I'm flipping 7/6 is going to become 6/7. And I change that to a multiplication times 6/7. And this 1 and 1/2, I'm actually going to change that to a improper fraction because I know I need that anyways. So 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So that breaks to 3/2, and that will be multiplied by all this eventually. But look, now I have multiplication for everything. So I could actually just multiply straight across for all of them and then get my final answer. So 3 times 1 is 3, times 6 is 18. So you get 18 on top. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 7 is 56. So I get 18/56. I can reduce this because both of those divide by 2. 56 divided by 2 is 28. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So I get 9/28 as my final answer. Okay. I'm going to skip part D. We're going to do some word problems, just 2 of them, and then we will call it an end of a lesson. Okay, so let's do some word problems. So Mr. Howell and his son Nathan found half a chocolate bar and a third of a bag of candy under the couch. They both couldn't resist, and they shared 2/3 of both the chocolate bar and the candy equally. Being careful to remove all the fluff and random floor debris, because of course this is under my couch. What fraction did each of them eat? I didn't actually eat the stuff under my couch. I would not do that. But in terms of this question, let's figure it out. So, Mr. Howell and son found half a chocolate bar and a third of a bag of candy. Okay, so I have half a chocolate bar and, which usually means plus, a third of a bag of candy. They couldn't resist, and they shared 2/3 of both the chocolate bar and candy equally. Okay, so let's see how this works here. So I have a half plus a third first. So I add both those together. I have to come up with fractions that are out of 6, because of course I can't add those as they are. So I multiply this one by 3, multiply the top by 3. I multiply that one by 2, multiply the top by 2. So I end up with 5 out of 6. So if I add the candy and the chocolate bar together, of the candy, the total amount of candy, I have 5/6 amount of candy. And we found this under the couch. We shared 2/3 of both the chocolate bar and candy equally. So 2/3 of it, I would have to then multiply. So now 2/3 of, whenever you see the word of means multiplication. So I'm going to take that 5/6 and I'm going to multiply by the 2/3. So I have 5/6 multiplied by 2/3. And with multiplication, I don't need any common denominators. So 5 times 2 is just 10. 6 times 3 is 18. So I get 10/18 total. Like that's how much we shared. And so what fraction did each of them eat? So then I'm going to have to take this value, the 10/18, and divide by 2. Okay, which is the same as multiplying by a half. Okay, so 10/18 is the amount of candy total, because we didn't eat all of it. We only shared 2/3 of the candy. So 2/3 of the candy was this amount here. That was 2/3. And then we shared it equally because there's 2 of us. We multiply that by a half, or dividing by 2. Same thing. So 10 times 1 is 10. 18 times 2 is 36. And we can reduce this by dividing both by 2. So 36 divided by 2 is 18. And 10 divided by 2, of course, is 5. So, in the end, after finding this disgusting chocolate under the couch, each of them get 5/18 total of the candy, of all the candy that was there. Hopefully that one makes sense. Okay. In 1 week, Mr. Howell's son Ephraim spends a quarter of his allowance on Fortnite skins. I know they can be quite expensive sometimes. A third of his allowance on the Fortnite Battle Pass, and a sixth of his allowance on energy drinks. if he receives $27 for his weekly allowance, how much money will he have left over? So a lot of things to spend money on, a lot of questionable things that might not be worth as much money as you should be spending on them, but that's okay. So Ephraim spends a quarter of his allowance on Fortnite skins. So I start with $27. Okay. He spends a quarter of that, which we'd be multiplying by a quarter. And we're going to try to figure out how much money he has left over just after spending, or how much money he has spent on just the Fortnite skins. So of course this is 27 over 1. Multiplying straight across, we get 27 over 4. I can't reduce that down because nothing goes into 4 and 27. So that would be the amount of money he spends on Fortnite skins, 27 out of 4. Okay, not how much money he has left over, but how much money he has spent so far. A third of his allowance is spent on the Fortnite Battle Pass. So we take 27 again, multiply by 1/3. Again, we can put 27 over 1. So this time we get 27 times 1 is 27. 1 times 3 is 3. This does reduce to 9, and that would be $9. That's how much he spends on the Battle Pass. And a sixth of his allowance on energy drinks. So I take 27 again, I multiply by 1/6. That's how much he spends on energy drinks. That, of course, is 27 over 1, so we get 27 over 6. And that's how much money he spends on energy drinks. We can't reduce this at all or anything. However, I could change these both, the top and the bottom. Sorry, that's on drinks. To decimals. Because this is all just dealing with money. And I'm going to be subtracting it from 27 anyways. I want the final amount in money, in a decimal amount. And we should be able to convert between decimals and fractions anyway. So 27 over 4, or divided by 4, is $6.75. That one's just $9. That one's simple. And then 27 divided by 6 is $4.50. That is how much money he spent on energy drinks. I don't know how much but the Battle Pass is. Maybe it was on sale. Maybe $9 is not enough. So finally, what we do is how much money does he have left over? So we start with $27, and we're going to subtract off the $6.75 he spends on the skins. We're also going to subtract off the $9 he spends on the Battle Pass. And finally, the $4.50 he spends on energy drinks. So, start with 27. I subtract off $6.75. I subtract off another 9 and $4.50, which leaves me with $6.75 left. Okay, so kind of an involved question where we had to start with amount of money, multiply by fractions each time, and then subtract. So it's a word problem where you have to kind of come up with the equations yourself and come up with some kind of a final answer. Hopefully that makes sense for that lesson. Let me know if you have any questions.